story about their PANDAS experience and journey and his recovery. Welcome.
I just want to say thank you to Robin and all the professionals here and the parents for letting us speak to you today about our story of hope.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Josh. This is my mom, Andrea. We're speaking today in hopes of possibly bringing some sense of peace to the hearts and minds of families that have been affected by these debilitating diseases. I'm 18 years old, and I was diagnosed with PANDAS when I was around the age of 8 or 9. And please bear with us because we are reaching back about 10 years to remember a lot of this stuff. So we thought the best way to talk to you today would be to simply share what we remember about the symptoms and feelings that I was having, as well as give you a perspective, her perspective as a parent, for you to see what might be offered in the way of positives that we experienced along the way. We recall, as I'm sure most do, if not all the families out there, may report that the symptoms can come on overnight. Many hear of this, but unless you experience it for yourself, you really have no idea what that really means and how scary it can be. Overnight, I started flicking my head forward, and my parents thought I had Tourette's at first. My mom says that I would always tick so hard that admittedly she had to often look away because she was so concerned. I remember that they expressed to me that they thought I was doing severe damage to myself.
Yeah, from a parent's perspective, it was just, I'm sure many of you either know someone or have someone that you love that it's almost impossible to watch your child go through this, especially when there's physical tics. It's easy, I shouldn't say it's easier. It's just as difficult with emotional, I know, but physical, you really think they're hurting themselves, and I would literally have to look away. I wouldn't tell him that I would look away, I just wouldn't watch him because it was too hard to watch.
After that, another symptom popped up. I started to flick my fingers a lot, and again, my mom kept expressing to me that it looked like it hurt. I remember that she would hold my hands and massage them. I don't know if that was more for me or to bring her a sense of peace. After that, another symptom, night terrors and abnormal thoughts began to occur. And as far as all those tics and everything go, I was aware I was doing it. I knew I shouldn't be, but there was really nothing I could do to control it. I felt like I had to do it.
It was like an impulse?
Yeah, pretty much. No one really picked on me in school or anything, so I'm lucky in that sense that everyone was supportive. And I realized that no one else was doing it, so I realized that there was something going on. Didn't know what it was, but I did know that something was going on that shouldn't be.
First and foremost, as a parent, I would like to reiterate the fact that Josh is now 18, and he's a freshman in college, a high school graduate, and he plays sports, and he's basically thriving as if nothing ever happened. When we were asked to share our story, it was actually difficult for Josh to remember a lot of this. And it's what we basically, as parents, thought that he was suffering through. And I think that's really important to reiterate, that we thought he was suffering through it. It was almost arguable that we as observers and parents that loved him so much maybe suffered more than he was. At times we wondered that. He never complained about anything physical, nor did he express anything emotional as far as turmoil. The message of hope, I think, here is that we're hoping that other child sufferers and their loved ones that 10 years down the road, that they'll have the same lapses of memory and an escape of sorts from some of the horrendous ordeals that you deal with day to day.
So after going through all this, it didn't take us long to find our way to the doctors. At that time, PANDAS was more of a phenomenon. It was a set of symptoms associated with recurring strep. There were no known tests for diagnosing these particular diseases. At least no one in our immediate circle knew of anything. Sorry. My folks stand firm that we were very fortunate with all the doctors, and they highly praise and continue to praise the doctors. My main physician was a savvy and sensible professional who not only pointed my folks in the direction of some literature that he thought would shed light, but was far ahead of the curve, and my mom insists that made all the difference in finding as much peace as possible through the ordeal.
Yeah, I really can't stress that enough. Honestly, the medical, I don't know whether we just got lucky or what, but just the medical world coming to our aid was everything for us as parents to get through it.
One of the main things that I think comforted you was that the pediatrician partnered with my parents, and my father, being a lieutenant firefighter and registered nurse, was giving standing orders to swab my throat for strep whenever they observed any kind of ticking. And this partnership afforded my folks the ability, without crucial time delays, to stay on top of monitoring the strep, and in turn, we're able to monitor the antibiotic use. I was on a lot of antibiotics as a kid. Even though I don't remember a lot of it, I'm told that my physical tics subsided every time I was on the antibiotics. And without medication, the tics would often take over my daily activities.
I just want to
Sorry,
say
go
real quick, I mean, I know it was mentioned, I heard the term so often, strep carrier. I never understood it. I still really don't understand it. I think Josh was a strep carrier. We would have him swabbed. I swear it was probably once every other week at least. We would end up the ticking, or sometimes more than once a week. They were, every time he was swabbed, he was positive. We knew as soon as he ticked, the slightest tick, we had him swabbed, and it was going to be positive. We knew it was going to be positive.
As far as my emotional state goes, my parents had me seeing a therapist to try to ease some of the severe worries that I had. Unfortunately, I don't remember a lot of that, so I can't really help you out.
He was
there.
just, yeah, you're probably a lot of what I heard the doctor talk, classic, just over-the-top fears. You know, you can take a child who you feel probably isn't suffering from anything like this, and a child who you might consider is completely different fears, just over the top.
Because my family's plagued by confirmed autoimmune diseases, which include 2 cases of PANDAS, it was after I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, not long after being diagnosed with PANDAS, that it prompted some family members to look a little bit more into the question of why it was us. There was a specific Swedish gene that was pinpointed as a common denominator. While we never took the studies any further, we do believe that there was a genetic factor involved. For the sake of time, I want to be sure and answer some of the some questions from a personal perspective. One question from the standpoint of a parent is, will the children get better? Clearly, every case is going to be different. In my case, while I was never told I was cured, I was told from the beginning that I would outgrow the condition.
They told us clearly he would outgrow it.
And as you can see from me standing here today, being a successful high school graduate and a freshman in college, I have outgrown the worst of it. And I hope that this can bring some sense of peace to all the parents out there. One prevalent symptom that still is open for discussion, if I've outgrown, is OCD. Still do have some OCD tendencies. Another common question is, will our children be scarred for life going through all this? The fact that I lack so many memories suggests that most likely no, because I can't remember a lot of it, so I'm not scarred, at least. I lost my place. And the next question is, will they have any leftover physical or mental issues? And kind of going along with the OCD thing, that's really, in my personal story, that's all I can really report, was that that's the only thing that really carried through. A lot of the stuff with the like night terrors and stuff like that, the terrors, all that, or the tics, I'm sorry, all that's gone. I don't remember it, so I'm not going to say that I'm mentally scarred.
That's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
As far as physical things that are left over, there's really nothing. Physically, I'm healthy. I played high school soccer for 4 years. I'm playing rugby in college now, so physically I feel like I'm, right up there with everyone else.
That
From-
brings up a good point, sorry. There was a growth curve, with some of this stuff that he's been through, and he's on some medication now, mostly it's for the Crohn's. Really, the PANDAS is not something that we even talk about anymore, but the Remicade that he's on for the Crohn's has really helped him thrive.
From a child's perspective, how can the parents be most supportive? The best thing that they can do, parents, teachers, schoolmates, and I found that this was helpful for me, was not to punish or humiliate the kid in any way, whether it's tics or anything like that. They were uncontrollable, and while I realize now that they were painful for them to watch, I am thankful that everyone did it in loving patience and didn't give me any troubles for it. Checking in my case, on me, on occasion, if I was in any kind of pain or if I needed anything to make me more comfortable, helped a lot, just to make sure that I was all right. And the biggest thing was not to overdo it, because if I was asked every 5 minutes if I was all right, it did get a little much. But as long as you're just making sure the kid's comfortable, then that's really the best way to go about it. As the time continued, I did realize that I still had some OCD tendencies that were occurring.
Do you feel them now?
Not as much anymore. I think I've grown out of a lot of it.
Yeah. Do you think you just naturally grew out of them, or do you? I don't have them, so I don't understand them fully. Train yourself? Is there a mental
Yeah, I
thing
think
that you have to?
The way I did it was I recognized that there was something that was going on, and
And you knew it wasn't quite right. You didn't want to
Yeah.
be called out on it ever. You didn't want to embarrass yourself ever. or what
right.
have
So
you.
yeah, so I knew that something was going on. So obviously everyone wants to be comfortable in life. So I found a way to fix the problem that I had in a comfortable way. So I never pushed myself to do anything. I took care of it all myself.
He did.
Yeah, I worked through it, but I did it in a way that was comfortable for myself. So I never pushed anything too hard or did anything that made me uncomfortable, because that was the biggest thing. If you're uncomfortable with something, you're going to go back to what makes you comfortable. And if you have OCD, what makes you comfortable is whatever you're doing with the OCD. So as long as you can keep yourself comfortable and slowly get out of whatever the OCD tendency is, that's the best way, and that's how I ended up getting out of a lot of it. In closing, we'd like to reiterate that we feel our story was a success story, if there is such a thing when relating to PANS and PANDAS. The last thing we intend to do is give false hope, but the fact that I'm thriving as a young adult makes it, making it just fine in this world. We hope that this speaks volumes in terms of successfully enduring the unspeakable, and we encourage families to be patient and respectful at the same time, keeping lines of communication open as delicately as possible. At this time, we're welcoming any specific questions that you folks might have, and we promise to do our best to try to answer them.
So have you had strep since you recovered and not?
It's a really good question. You could tell you haven't.
No, yeah, it's been a while. I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember the last time. So.
I was just
Do you
back
still
there
have your
saying,
tonsils?
no, he doesn't have his tonsils or his adenoids. He-
A while.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
young.
Before these episodes?
It was after.
Was it? No, it was, I think, before.
It was before. Yeah, it was.
was
Yeah, it was before. Yeah. And I was just saying, I wondered if I swabbed his throat now, if it would be positive. I have no idea.
Did many of your symptoms also dissipate once you started treating the Crohn's and the inflammation?
No, that's a good question
Yeah,
too. They went.
no,
They
it
were.
was-
They were almost unfortunately concurrent. It's almost like the Crohn's took over, and the PANDAS just sort of went away, and we just took it as they told us it was going to go away. So we didn't go further or question or worry about it. The Crohn's became more of a focus and lifelong than something to follow.
Yeah.
Did you just treat each strep infection, or did you end up going on a prophylactic antibiotic?
Prophylactic.
And how long did you stay on that?
He was sick a lot as a child before that diagnosis of PANDAS, which really wasn't clinically diagnosed either. He was just so sick all the time. We were in and out of hospitals all the time with him, with viruses and who knows what, but strep was a huge one. And I remember this because we went on a family vacation, and they basically had messed up on the test and said that he was negative, and called us just before we ran out the door and said, wait a minute, we're sorry, it's positive. So we don't know how long he had been. That particular episode, I always wonder if that was something that triggered something, because he went a while with the strep without being treated. But then they ultimately just put him on prophylactically on the antibiotics, which I'm not thrilled. I'm a huge save antibiotic strength person. But when he was on them, the ticks, all that nasty stuff just went away.
And how long, my son has a very similar path to what you had. He's 11 now, and he has been tick-free for a year and a half after being on, long-term antibiotics for over a year. So, we're just curious, how long did you stay on the prophylactic antibiotic?
I don't recall that. It wasn't that long. It wasn't years, not what you're talking about. I didn't like it. His father was in the medical world. I know that I would have pushed to get him off of it, and then it was the continued swabbing. Again, we were very fortunate that his dad was able to have that standing order with the local hospital, and himself to be able to do that medically and kind of keep time on our side with it. And, that was a fortunate thing. I realize that. Okay. Well, thank you.
Are you going to be staying or going?
Josh has to work,
Okay.
so
But
I'll
you will
stick
be
around
here?
for a little
'Cause
bit.
some people might have further questions
Yeah.
on break or something. Thank you both.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
So we're going to take a break now, and there's drinks that way, some water. Oh, and there's a back room there, and then the restrooms are also down the